Technically speaking.
Welcome to our Technically Untechnical Technology Talk,
a NIWC Atlantic production,
and an award-winning podcast with your hosts, Chelsie Holloway and Alex Jackson.
So Alex, I've discovered a brand new talent that my 3-year-old has. He's going to be an amazing soccer player. I can tell.
That's really exciting.
It's very exciting. Now, granted, I'm biased. I'm his mom. But he's just signed up for
He's great.
I know, Joe, but he's so talented. So we just signed up for him for this clinical 3-year-old little soccer league thing every weekend. I don't know. I'm new to this whole sport thing, but he's doing amazing. He's not afraid of the ball. They call him a little killer on the team because he'll just go after it, and he scores so many goals. And yeah, so I'm a proud mama for my son's newfound skills with soccer. And he doesn't get tired. It drives me insane.
You're the quintessential soccer mom.
Yeah, you'll be a good soccer mom for sure.
We'll see. So that's been my weekends lately, is going to soccer Saturday mornings. How have you been, Alex? What have you been up to?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got back from celebrating my grandmother's 88th birthday, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
In Georgia with family and friends. So we had a great time and ate some really good food. So I'm glad to sort of be back at home and relaxing and sort of catching up from all the craziness over the weekend.
88, that's a milestone. That's great. So how did you celebrate? You cooked at home, and what else did you do?
We went out to eat at a restaurant and got to celebrate her and show the love that everyone has for her. So it was a really great time.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, so what do we have coming up for this episode? We've got chemistry, models, creativity, but not the way you may be thinking. So we're going to be chatting with 2 charismatic guys, and the chemistry between them is undeniable. They're here to tell us about model-based systems engineering at NIWC Atlantic and the creative ways their teams have come up with information warfare solutions for the warfighter. Chemistry, models, creativity. Get it, Alex?
Yep, I like that. We had a great discussion with PEO Digital Deputy Director of Architecture, Caleb Scott, and NIWC Atlantic Lead Systems Engineer, Paul Walter, about the recent milestones from MBSE. Then we have a special military moment interview featuring NIWC Atlantic's newly penned Chief Petty Officers, hosted by our very own public affairs teammate, Jerry Sekerak. So get comfy, turn up that volume, and let's get started.
So welcome to the podcast. We're going to be talking about some wonderful things happening in model-based systems engineering here at NIWC Atlantic. But before we get into that, can you each please introduce yourselves by name and position?
Hi, everybody. This is Caleb Scott. I am the Acting Director of Architecture for PEO Digital, but I am a NIWC LANT employee working in the System of Systems Engineering competency.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Walter. I'm the lead systems engineer for our Systems of Systems Engineering competency. I'm also the digital engineering champion for NIWC Atlantic.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming on with us. And let's jump right into it. But first, we just need to explain the work that MBSE does at NIWC Atlantic. So if you guys could just jump in and kind of give everyone a layout who has no idea what MBSE is and what we do at NIWC Atlantic.
Yeah, sure thing. Got to provide a little bit of context. First, it's important to understand that doing MBSE is just about doing systems engineering in a smarter way. And systems engineering is all about engineering complex systems across lots of different engineering disciplines across an entire systems lifecycle in order to meet the user's needs and other stakeholders' needs.
Okay.
MBSE is just a more advanced way to do systems engineering by taking a model-based approach, using legacy systems engineering methods like writing up test plans in a Word document or managing requirements in a Microsoft Excel file. Those sorts of things are insufficient to manage the complexity that we see in our information technology systems. So traditional systems engineering relies heavily on managing all these documents, and managing all those documents creates a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of change control issues. It's just super inefficient. And so at NIWC Atlantic, we really started taking this seriously about 8 years ago. So 2017 was when we developed our first MBSE technical focus area strategy. And so over the last 8 years, we've actually implemented a number of different multi-year strategies aimed at really implementing MBSE across the entire command and really adopting.
So we're going to get more into that
Okay.
a little bit down the road when we
Gotcha.
talk. Yes, absolutely. So basically and tell me if I'm simplifying this a little too much, but you guys are creating software or a set of applications that meet a need, and you're creating speed through a single tool based on what you need to make. Is that kind of it?
The second part is true. The first part is only partially true. So,
Okay.
So software engineering is engineering software solutions. Systems engineering is a broader discipline, which is really about integrating software engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering,
Okay.
and all different forms of engineering in order to meet the needs. So it's a very cross-disciplinary function. So when we talk about MBSE, we're talking about capturing requirements from customers
great.
and then translating that into the design and then how we build it, how we test it and turn it over to the customer.
Perfect.
Explaining that process of the whole life cycle of that MBSE, can you give us some examples of what you all do within NIWC Atlantic and helping your customers?
Absolutely. We've collected several dozen success stories that we've recorded in videos where we've captured objective return on investment metrics on to get a feedback loop. Hey, how are we doing with this? Are we achieving some of the value that we know is inherent to doing MBSE? But to give you an example, like with military construction projects, like we call MILCOM projects, we have to assess what systems and networks are going to need to go into, like I say, a command center environment or an operations center, how the site's going to talk to other sites. And we need a way to pull this data together. So using MBSE and working in a single model has allowed us to go a lot faster. So if you make a change in one place in your model and that change is reflected other places in the model, that system component or that requirement shows up. So if we try to connect two systems or components or command centers together that can't actually talk to each other, like an MBSE tool won't let you do that. It'll flag it and say, hey, the information flows between these two things do not connect. These two devices do not talk. If you're using PowerPoint or Visio or tools like that, they're going to allow you to make those mistakes. They're not going to tell you to do anything wrong because there's no technical data underneath those two blocks that are touching each other.
So that saves time in terms of like knowing what could go wrong if you had gone forward with that
Correct.
project.
It saves time, but also reduces technical risk.
Yeah, and I like examples that aren't engineering examples per se to kind of make things make a little more sense to people that maybe are coming in from outside of that perspective. So a virtual show of hands, Amazon Prime members, right? Everybody like on the face of the earth. So have you ever gone into Amazon and looked for like a light bulb for your car? One of the things that it asks you to do is put in a whole bunch of information about your car to make sure that it finds compatible things for that car. And it shows you results that says, hey, these fit. And maybe specifically these fit in these places. So if you think about the transition from traditional systems engineering to model-based, traditional systems engineering would have said, you need to know what the part number needs to be, so you need to look that up somewhere. And then you need to go to Amazon and you need to take that part number, put it in the search and find it. And then you need to double check that it's the right one that returned the search. Now, model-based, it says, hey, we're going to put this all in one place. You're going to give us the information you need. It's going to go through this back end that's really taking all of those different information sources, putting them together, and it's going to give you the result you need faster with fewer errors. And that's really what we're doing for our customers. Is we're working to take these manual processes where you have to keep things manually aligned and automate it and kind of merge it so that you can get those answers with higher reliability. You can trust them.
And one of your customers is the warfighter, right?
Yeah.
And from what I understand, your skills and what you do affects everything from email to reconnaissance from what the Navy could use model-based systems engineering for. And it's a way for warfighters to have reliable networks. And it is not only more efficient, but it has saved the government money. Would you agree with all of those statements?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Caleb talked about, there's so much less manual administrative work being done that it really reduces the cost, the time, the risk on any project where we're engineering systems for any type of application, whether we're talking about the things you just mentioned and beyond. So our focus isn't on a particular type of program or particular type of system. It's on all systems. And the more complex the systems are, the more beneficial it is to take this sort of approach. So we've experienced multi-million-dollar savings by applying model-based methods to projects where we're integrating IT systems and networks into, for example, the military construction efforts I was talking about. I mean, we have evidence of that. Another example actually is one that Caleb and I worked on together called the Target Enterprise Architecture. And that's where the Navy has a few hundred disparate networks, if you didn't know that, and they need to assess where they could consolidate their services and applications. So we always see lots of, hey, we got to consolidate all of our data centers or all of our networks or all of our applications or whatever. And this was one of those network convergence examples. And so what we did was we pulled all the data regarding Navy networks, their applications, and pull that into a single model, and we're able to do analyses and auto-generate reports for all those networks, for all those commands that own those networks, and that enabled the Navy to make smarter decisions regarding the consolidation of their network capabilities. So we even got an award this past year as the Non-IT Excellence Award for our application of MBSE in support of network modernization and convergence.
Another milestone you reached, we're going to slide right into this. Let's talk about it. MBSE has become a core proficiency at NIWC Atlantic, which is a very big deal here. And so let's kind of explain why that's so important. And you went from a technical focus area to a core proficiency. What does that mean for you guys? What does that mean to the audience who has no idea what I'm talking about?
So transitions of initiatives and focus areas, right, to core proficiencies is always kind of a fun thing. It's kind of a little bit like graduating from high school, but not like graduating from middle school or elementary school, because that is not a real thing. I just want the listeners to understand that is not real. Sorry. But we invested a significant amount of time, energy, funding, really just embracing what the Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy had mandated as this call to adopt model-based practices, and MBSE specifically. The shift, this graduation, if you will, from a TFA to a core proficiency, it really marks the establishment of those skills and behaviors as something that we're doing that's self-sustaining. So it's no longer this thing that you have to keep feeding because otherwise it'll starve to death.
Right. It's showing that you guys are reliable, like you're saying, and you can take on larger projects. You can solve harder problems. You've established yourself at NIWC Atlantic to a degree that you have shown everyone that you've accomplished this success. Now give us the work that we can do because we've got this. I love how you said about the high school graduation though, because once people have graduated high school, you don't have to feed them, like you're saying. They've got the knowledge. They've at least got the basics anyway, right? And they can take on harder problems. And that's kind of like a core proficiency. Maybe you want to compare it to maybe getting a master's or a doctorate because you guys are super smart. So that could be something that we compare it to. But yeah, I think that's a great way.
It is a good analogy. And the reality is when you're going through school, you're learning all the time. You're getting smarter and you're able to do more and more throughout the years. And when you graduate from high school, it's a big milestone. So it's just that, it's a milestone. So the reality is that we've had the opportunity to work on harder and harder projects over the years, and we've done more and more work. And so it's been a progressive thing, of course. But it's cool to kind of be able to take this time to reflect back and say, wow, we have actually grown quite a bit, in 8 years.
You've spoken about the milestones over the last 8 years. Can you tell me a little bit about the growth that you all have seen from the very beginning to now?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of ways to characterize the growth toward MBSE as a core proficiency. If you go back to 2017, we had less than 10 people in the whole command that were doing MBSE to any degree. Fast forward to now, we've got several hundred people who are not only trained in MBSE, but are actively performing MBSE type of practices. Another statistic is we have about 100 integrated product teams in the command. And if you go back to 2017, we had one. We had the mission engineering team that was doing anything that might resemble MBSE. Now we are at 80% of our IPTs, or integrated product teams that do some form of engineering, are actually applying model-based practices to engineering in some way, shape, or form.
That's great.
Yeah, and then since we stood up our model-based systems engineering community of interest in 2017, we've had 50 to 60 community events. We've had 10 different model-based engineering challenges of different sorts, some internal with the government, some with industry. And
I'd love to talk
nav-
more about those challenges and what they lead to and why they're important. So can you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I think we could do a whole podcast just on digital engineering challenges. But it's funny.
And Paul's love of metrics.
Yes.
I don't know if you've picked up on the numbers. He likes to drop numbers. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
so
We
one
need
thing I will
those
put a
supportive numbers. We need that data
Yeah.
to kind of make that point to show how awesome we are. So it's great.
Right, Chelsea? Exactly.
Well, have I got the guy for you?
But challenges, let's talk about those.
Yes. So if we go back to right before the pandemic kind of had us teleworking a lot, January 2020, Caleb and another guy named Peyton Cabarock and I were working very closely together on all this digital engineering stuff. And Peyton walked in and said, hey, we should do some sort of challenge, some sort of MBSE challenge. And so I said, oh, I've been thinking something similar. Caleb's in the next office over. Come in here. Let's talk about this. And so we had a hour-long conversation where we brainstormed doing an MBSE challenge. And we said, what we want to do is we want to provide a way for people to innovate their MBSE practices and give them hard problems to solve, and then just give them some space, some time, a little bit of funding to go and solve those problems. So we were able to acquire a little bit of overhead funding to do an MBSE challenge back in early 2020. And what we did was we just kind of went to our leadership in the command and said, hey, what are some hard problems that we're facing? And we published those hard problems to the workforce. And we said, hey, what we were asking you to do is go form teams to go and try to solve these hard problems using MBSE. And so what they came back with in that first challenge just blew us away. And so what that has resulted in is we've done 10 challenges now,
Really?
eight government, 2 industry, and we do them twice a year. And we've expanded the concepts to applying model-based practices to all forms of engineering. So we've seen lots of innovative use of artificial intelligence, of all forms of advanced modeling. We've seen stuff at higher classification levels to solve super hard problems that are really relevant to what's going on in the world. We have seen the integration of all sorts of tools. And the beauty of it is that when one team comes together to solve an innovative problem for really small costs and not too much time, what happens is everybody gets to see the benefits of what they did. They get to learn some of the same lessons that team has learned. And what I love to see, and I've seen it dozens and dozens of times, is one team does something and then other teams will pick up on it. And so they'll go pick up that practice. They'll go pick up the use of a particular plugin or a tool. They'll start to leverage some integration between tools, and you get this exponential growth in terms of people learning how to do engineering better. You also get
these challenges, like, they not only provide solutions, but it sounds like they're creating motivation and collaboration just among the engineers and the scientists within your guys' different teams.
100%. We've had almost 100 teams submit proposals to compete, and each of those teams is made up of a handful of people. So a lot of people have been in the mix. The people who compete in these challenges, they're coming from the financial community, they're coming from the software development community, from cybersecurity, from the data science and analytics, from you name it, network. So it's these teams are very diverse in terms of their composition and the approaches that they're taking. So what started off as an MBSE challenge focused on how do you do systems engineering smarter has just grown and blossomed into this all kinds of innovation in the engineering space.
Well, you mentioned the idea of motivation. I'm going to get fact checked on this, but I believe it's Google that actually has these opportunities. There are windows of time set aside for their staff to work on something that they want to work on, something that kind of speaks to them, that they're like, what I'd really like to explore is this kind of, if you want to call them science projects, you can. But the D challenge, the MBSE challenge that became the digital engineering challenge, really kind of borrowed from that idea that there were things that the workforce really wanted to be able to explore. And actually, a few of our challenges have been carte blanche challenges. Bring your own problem statement. Just give them a blank card, right? Yeah. Just go for it. Bring your own problem statement and your own solution. You get to be the arson and the firefighter all at once, right? Like you break it and fix it. So it's been really interesting seeing what they bring, because in some cases they bring problems that we're very aware of, very familiar with. But in other cases, they come with things that honestly hadn't really risen to the level of visibility that we had.
It brings along an opportunity to find these creative solutions to problems that some people may not have thought about, and so it's very innovative in that approach. Can you all explain how that makes you all feel, the passion that you all have to be able to solve these problems, and how is that fulfilling to your day-to-day lives?
Oh, man. I'm not always the most creative when it comes to some of these problem-solving things. So actually, one of the most fulfilling parts about this job is working with Paul, because he's like my spirit animal.
Aww,
or my spirit
going on
person.
Here.
Well, yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, but before you want to retitle this podcast MBSE Bromance, I want to explain that, like, I'm happiest personally when I'm helping people solve problems. For me, it's been incredibly rewarding just to be able to have what I would really call a front row seat to problem solving, because I don't want to take anything away from the teams that are there with the problems, because really, truly, they are the ones that are solving the problems. We're just helping them find the resources, see the things, consider stuff from a different angle.
Yeah, we have a brilliant workforce in this organization, and many of us are heads down trying to develop whatever solutions we are for the warfighter, and that is good. But what we're focusing on is how do we get more out of our workforce by connecting people, connecting ideas, taking these problems, these hard problems, and getting them in the hands of people who can go solve them. What if the problem that I could be solving better would be the problem that Chelsie knows more about? And so connecting people, connecting ideas, connecting modern ways.
I doubt it. You guys are such good champions for our workforce. I love hearing that, and I love hearing that you like to solve problems, because I doubt we'll run out of any problems to solve, especially when we're talking about our warfighters. We've got to have their backs. So it sounds like you guys have great stamina around your job. I love hearing it, and I love hearing your support about the workforce.
We thank you guys for joining us on the podcast, and thanks for sharing your wealth of knowledge with our audience.
Thank you, Alex and Chelsie.
Thanks, y'all.
So fun chatting with them, Alex, and I definitely understand better now how influential MBSE is in streamlining the processes that we have to provide all of these solutions for our warfighters.
Yes, it was great talking with them and learning a lot about what MBSE is. Now let's jump into our military moment, where our public affairs teammate Jerry Sekerak sits down with 3 recently promoted active duty sailors who put on the revered rank of Chief Petty Officer. He guides us through a powerful conversation with Chief Information Systems Technicians Tess, Tharp, and Matthew Groschup, and Chief Logistics Specialist Darian Adams.
How you doing, Chiefs? Congratulations again. Let's start with the moment that you were pinned. What was going through your mind as you received the anchor? Who wants to take that one?
I can take that one, Jerry. For sure, it was a completely emotional process. I mean, at the time, you're tired mentally and emotionally, just exhausted. But then you look up and you look out in the crowd, everybody there in front of you, your family, your new brothers and sisters in the Chiefs mess, and it's just in that moment, it's just everything washes away. It's pure pride. It's a great feeling, and it's great reaching that pinnacle and receiving the anchors, one of the greatest feelings in the world.
Thanks, Matthew. Darian, now one for you. As you know, the Navy is the only service that designates E7 as chief. How does that distinction feel now that you've crossed that threshold?
As I look back and think of my older chiefs and how the interactions were done, the phrase comes to mind, ask the chief. Because you ask a chief, it gets done. There's no question about it. Now that I'm on this side of the fence, I see what the mess really is, and that's a family. They are someone that you will always be able to depend on from this day forward, and even looking back, you could always count on the chief. So now I know I can be that chief and make sure the job gets done.
Absolutely. You're talking about networking, which is probably the biggest tool in the chief's tool bag. Great point. Tess, over to you for this one. What part of the induction process challenged you the most, and what did it teach you about leadership?
The big challenge for me during the induction process was being vulnerable and not being afraid of asking for help when I needed it, leaning on the mess when I needed them, reaching out to my brothers and sisters in the mess, and that there was no judgment from them. It definitely taught me that it's important to ask for help no matter what the situation is, because we're all humans and nobody, no matter who, is perfect.
Definitely not going to argue that one. Also a great point, Tess. Thanks. Okay, well, we don't have a lot of time left, and we're looking at the finish line, so I'm going to pass this one to all of you. So briefly, if you could, say one thing to the junior sailors that are watching, or in this case, listening, to your journey. What would you want them to know about earning that anchor? We'll start with you, Matthew.
Start being that leader now. Like, take care of those below you and those around you.
Okay. Tess?
Definitely staying true to yourself. Don't change who you are for anyone or any part of the process. If you're a good second class, first class, third class, you're going to be a good chief.
And Darian?
My advice for junior sailors, everything is a lesson. Whether there's someone in your leadership you cannot stand or someone you absolutely love, they will teach you something. Emulate the traits that you think are the best and do whatever you can to be that good leader and not like the leadership you couldn't stand.
All good stuff. Well, I wish we had more time, but we're pretty much at our limit right now. So thanks, Chiefs, and best to you as you move on with your new role. So with that, I'll turn it back to our hosts, Chelsie and Alex. Thank you both for letting me share this moment with these outstanding new leaders.
That was a great chat with some accomplished new chiefs, and we thank Jerry for taking the time to sit down with them at our Hampton Roads, Virginia location.
Milestones all around for this episode, Alex, from your grandmother to MBSE to these brand new chiefs. I love it when we can chat about milestones on this podcast.
Those were some great wins for the team and for our family, so that's really good news.
And killer soccer players.
That's right. Absolutely. That's awesome. All right. As always, to learn more about anything we've mentioned in this podcast, check out our social medias under NAVWAR or our NIWC Atlantic website. Links are in the description.
This wraps up another great episode. As always, we thank you for listening. If you have a tip or story that you think should be included in this podcast, please contact us at our public affairs email address, which is listed in the description.
Naval Information Warfare Center Atlantic, also known as NIWC, is the East Coast branch of the Naval Information Warfare Systems Command within the Department of the Navy. We develop a range of technologies that provide state-of-the-art capabilities to the United States military.